You're now David Bossie, Trump 2016 deputy campaign manager and a Fox News contributor, and Jake Maccoby, former chief speechwriter to Attorney General Eric Holder and Loretta Lynch. Thank you both, gentlemen, for being here. Jake, let me start with you. Did you think they acquitted themselves well in there?
I think that the Democrats did some legitimate oversight that's been missing from this administration for the last 2 years. I don't think that Acting Attorney General Whitaker acquitted himself very well. At one point, somebody accused the Democrats of sullying his character, which is a little ridiculous, considering that the Acting Attorney General was previously the pitchman for a fraudulent company that sold toilets and time machines. So he didn't put his best foot forward for sure. He didn't come in with the highest of expectations, but he certainly left having crawled under the bar that had been set for him. He didn't answer questions. He was angry. He lashed out at members of the committee, at the chairman. It was a bad showing for him, but it was a really important example of oversight that this administration is going to have to get used to.
David?
Yeah, well, the politics of personal destruction are in full effect, and Jake just continued it just now. Look, that's what they were doing. It was an assault of questions by the Democrats who hate this president more than they love the country. They had no intention of trying to get answers to legitimate questions. This was a sideshow. It was a circus, and that's what this White House is going to be looking at for the next 2 years. Jake is definitely right about that. And by the way, the Republicans better strap on their helmets and they better find their footing, because this is just the first salvo.
You know, I mean, it raises a question. I had Trey Gowdy on the other night. He said if I were advising Matt Whitaker, which he wasn't, but, you know, he said if I were asked, I would tell him not to go. You know, there's going to be a new attorney general in a matter of days. And it was pretty clear where this was going to head. This is a person who's leaving this position. So what was the goal, do you think, Jake? What were they hoping to achieve by trying to get him to admit that he was against the Mueller probe when he really won't have any role? He will not be able to, you know, be effective in one way or the other with regard to the probe in a few days.
Well, the goal isn't getting him to admit anything. The goal is to get some insight into the workings of the...
Come on. No, they definitely wanted him to admit that he was biased against the probe, that he thought it was a witch hunt, and that he had been actively trying to do what he could within his ability to, you know, to leak information, to get information out there about anything he knew. He said he hasn't seen the report. So how can you say that, based on their questions that we just showed, that that wasn't part of their mission today?
I think that they were asking those questions because they wanted those answers, but I don't think that they're difficult questions if the answers are things like, I am pursuing this endeavor. I'm overseeing this investigation in a fair and reasonable way. I don't think those are difficult questions. They're only difficult if you are a person like Matt Whitaker who doesn't want to answer them.
I didn't say they were difficult questions. I just said they had a clear. They were questions that appeared to have a pretty clear agenda.
Yes,
there are questions that seem to have a clear answer that he didn't want to touch.
He said
the Democrats didn't want their answers. It didn't want Matt Whitaker's answers because those answers were, I didn't speak to the president about this. I didn't impede Mueller's probe at all. I was never involved in the decision-making of the Mueller probe. Those answers, which we've all believed to be true because we see the Mueller probe is winding down. We're going to get a report, which we hope will become public so that we, the American people, can see exactly what Mueller was up to.
Yeah. I mean, that's really what it comes down to here. You know, you have... we don't know. No one knows when this report is going to come out. But that's really going to be, you know, when the pedal hits the metal here, Jake, when everybody gets to take a look at exactly what is in this report, right? And then these questions won't really be necessary, I would imagine.
Certainly, I think it's really important that the public get a look at this report. Now, William Barr, who's been nominated to be Attorney General, hasn't said whether he would allow it to become public. So that's a real problem. But I definitely agree that it should become public, that people should be able to see the results of this probe. Yeah. But part of what we want to make sure of, and part of what Democrats are trying to make sure of, is that this probe is being carried on appropriately and is not being impeded by the president or his staff any more than he's already admitted to doing it.
I got 20 seconds left. Final thought, David?
No, I think that it's self-evident that Matt Whitaker said today very clearly he didn't talk to the White House, didn't talk to the president, didn't impede this investigation. That definitely came out, even though the Democrats on the committee were rude to him and didn't even allow him to answer fundamental questions. It was a ridiculous
Congressman, Chairman Nadler said he's going to bring him back and possibly under subpoena to get answers to those questions. So we'll see what happens. Gentlemen, thank you both very much. Good to have you here.